How you doing, Eric?
I'm good. I'm good. How's it going, Dr. Wallace?
I can't complain. Always busy, but I'm sure everybody's busy as well.
Yeah, but you're extremely busy. So what kind of work are you doing these days?
Working with the Austin Area Urban League, working with council member Natasha Harper Madison. This got appointed to be on the Sobering Center by the Travis County Commissioners Court, and also serving as board chair for the Black Men's Health Clinic, vice chair for the Texas Veterans Commission's advisory committee, and the chair for the Texas Veterans Leadership Task Force.
That's a lot. You do a lot. When do you find time to sleep, man?
I don't. I got three kids. They're both seven, doing softball and football, 2.5 hour practices, and I got a 3-year-old. So luckily, I have a wife that's very supportive, and I got family that's very supportive as well. As you know, coming into the political space, you have to have that support, especially if you have the kids, you have the family, to be able to have that balance. There's a lot that's going to be asked of you, especially at the level of mayor, from a official capacity as well as a representative capacity.
Absolutely. Because in the end and in the beginning, you're a public servant. You're there to serve the people. And so you have your personal life you have to attend to, but also you have everyone in the city you're responsible for. So yeah, that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about all of these politics, and you and I have experience behind the scenes of political arenas, but a lot of our viewers may not. And so I say we get into some of the definitions and kind of make the distinctions between what a mayor is and what a city council member is. So, what is the difference between a mayor and a city council member?
I would say, having sat in that seat as a mayor, right? You look at the order of presidents from the White House. It lists that rank structure, and so it goes from the U.S. senator to the governor to the the U.S. House representative to the lieutenant governor to the mayor to state legislation, and so forth. And when you look at that order, right, you see that, especially when we had the winter storm, we have COVID, the decision makers that have the power invested into them through Texas municipal education leagues and so forth, through the Texas code and whatnot for municipalities, they're able to do these declarations of emergencies and be able to, instead of having to go and always meet and get consensus and make decisions, those individuals are able to make almost unilateral decisions on behalf of the community to meet the needs of the community. And so when you look at it from that kind of lens, there is a big significant variance between the roles, responsibilities, expectation, understanding, what your words can say, what level of impact your words can say, by knowing that. Additionally, you can have council members kind of go out and talk about their ideas of what they would want to do, what they would like to be able to see. That mayor can also either reinforce it or give an opposite response that can basically tell an organization, well, the mayor's not going to entertain it, so we don't even need to continue to have this conversation, right? Because 9 times out of 10, it's usually the mayor decides whether or not they want to have something heard or not heard at the dais, something to be entertained or not be entertained. That kind of goes back to that Robert's Rules of Orders. So there's a lot of a difference when it comes to being able to open the doors and close the doors that the mayor can do intentfully or accidentally than what a council member can.
Great information. That's very good information. So the mayor has different powers and abilities than a council member, essentially. Awesome. So, what overall is the level of impact that a mayor can have? What is the weight of the powers that come along with the position?
When I got in the seat as mayor, one of the first things I did, transportation is a huge concern, and vital need here within our city of Manor. And so one of the first things I did was call the executive director of Campo, Cap Metro, TxDOT, right, Regional Mobility Authority, and basically say, hey, I'm the new mayor for the city of Manor. I don't know what you do. I know I need to know what you do. What should I hold you accountable for? And what should I not hold you accountable for that belongs to someone else? And immediately it was getting meetings on the calendars. I mean, 9 times out of 10, most of them said, I've never had a mayor directly call me. It's usually a staff person or council member or someone else, right? When we looked at trying to get resources for the city, there's just a different level of activation, motion, movement when you have that mayor personally reaching out, having that conversation, talking about the vision of what they see for the whole city. Council members, especially for Austin, they have their one district, right? They don't necessarily have the ability to speak for someone else's area of operation. That mayor speaks for the whole city. And so understanding that level of impact that you can have, that stationery that you have that says mayor at the bottom of it, where you may not get the votes for something that's really needed in your community, but you can write a stationery that says I fully support, or I would love to see this happen, can still open doors, can still make things happen.
That reminds me, you touched on something that, especially in Austin, when you said that, it reminded me of the 10-1. So Austin has a 10-1 council structure. And for those of you who don't know, that means there are 10 districts and then there's one mayor. So the mayor, essentially, all the council members do, but the mayor especially looks over the whole city. But each council member is appointed by a single district. That is a new occurrence. So Mayor Adler is the first mayor of this 10-1 system, and Adler was elected in 2015. This is something that uniquely speaks to Austin, that the mayor is the entity who supervises and cares for the entire city. Great. During your time as mayor, I remember we spoke months back, and we talked about the emergencies and disasters that have come up, and something stuck out to me, how you used your military experience to address crisis. So we are still in states of crisis, kind of rolling states now, going through environmental crises, health crises. So my question to you is, what type of skill or experience will a mayor need to respond to public emergencies like COVID and Winter Storm Uri? And what led to your successful leadership in this area?
A lot of people think you got to have political experience to be successful. And that's not the case. I mean, I retired from the military 2017, got on planning and zoning within 6 months of being in the city of Manor that I'd never lived around. I came from Dallas, Fort Worth, military for almost 20 years, moved to the city of Manor, got on planning and zoning, did planning and zoning for about 8 months before I got on city council, did city council for 9 months before I became the first Black mayor for the city of Manor. I didn't know and still don't know a lot of the aspects of my city. You can ask me some roads. I probably will not be able to tell you where some of those roads are at. But I had conversations with, again, Mayor Adler. He introduced me to 2 mayors, one from Richmond. I can't think of the other one off the top of my head right now. And the consensus was, do you have a vision, and are you able to relay that vision and get consensus and buy-in? And are you able to rely on your staff and your team, right? Do you have a chief of police? They should be proficient in their area. Do you have EMS? They should be proficient in the area. Do you have a city manager? They should be proficient in their area until they prove that they're not. Then you replace them and you get someone that can actually do the job. Your goal is not to do their job. Your goal is to create a vision that suits where the city should and can go, right? Not necessarily where it's at, but where it should and could go. And then to be able to get everybody to corral around that. Now you got a 10, as you said, 10-1, right? So there's a lot of corralling that has to happen. And again, the successes, at least I would say for us here in the city of Manor, when COVID and as you said, Winter Storm Uri happened, was because I didn't approach it politically. I approached it from, I'm deployed, I'm on a garrison, we're cut off. How do we get resources? How do we take care of people? And that's usually what I would say is the success, especially now in quote unquote politics. People are tired of hearing, I got to go ask this. I need to go find out. We're waiting to hear. No, what can you do with the actual empower invested in you? What can you sign your name to that doesn't always require you to go get a consensus that can help prove and demonstrate why the consensus should happen and get voted for. I've talked with individuals running for state legislation, and what I would tell them too is, if you never get anything passed from the dais, what impact have you had in the community? That's what I would ultimately say for any of the candidates here.
Great point. That's a great point to leave us with. But I have one more question, and this is from your mayoral experience, from the totality of it. What questions would you have for the candidates?
I would ask the question of, do you really understand the powers invested into the municipality through the state code? Do you understand the differences between when you're in a state of emergency, declared state of emergency, and when you're not, and what things you're able to do? Again, what are your actual experiences? If you haven't done anything in the community, you haven't been engaged and active, how are you going to demonstrate that you're not going to do the same thing now in a greater position of authority and power, right? Too often, we want to see the buzzwords, the catchisms, and the gotcha statements and so forth. And then when the person gets in the seat, they're a dud, right? Because we didn't really look at what they did, what they persevered through, what they've been willing to fall on the sword for, so to say, to then be able to say, okay, if they did it then, with greater power comes greater responsibility, we can pretty much say they'll probably do the same thing here.
Great point. All great points. Thank you so much for your input, your wisdom, and definitely best of luck to all of your many, many ventures. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we move on to the candidates?
No, not at all. I know nobody wants to hear me. They want to hear these candidates, right? It's getting ready to go to election. So let's hear what they have to say.
I agree. They don't want to hear me either. So what we're going to do is we're going to say bye to Dr. Wallace. Thanks for joining us.